This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello and welcome to a special deadline day edition of the Blood Red podcast / regular. Oh my God, the season starts tomorrow. Where the hell is the summer gone? Blood Red podcast. Liverpool are still European champions. Never get tired of saying that. It is 6:19 on deadline day and the English transfer window has officially slammed shut. I'm your host for the first time, Theo Squires. Yes, we really are scraping the barrel. Thankfully, joining me are two Echo legends to carry me through. And yes, they have paid me to say that. There are also two fine old journalists. Yeah, we'll go with that. Journalists old enough to remember a time before the modern transfer window and the frenzy of deadline day. First up is the Echo's answer to Andrew, not Andy Cole. He's not Doyle. He's not Doyley. It's Ian, just Ian Doyle. Hi, Ian.
I'm not sure what to say after that.
How are you?
I'm okay. How are you? That was your first introduction to the podcast, wasn't it?
Yeah, how did I do?
It was okay, yeah. One or two stumbles, but probably better than I did when I first did.
Do you like your intro, of course? It's not the most Bolton person, but...
No, it's not. I think it needs to be a bit more snappy, I suspect.
Bit snappier.
Yeah, a bit snappier. But otherwise, yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it's been an interesting day, hasn't it?
It has, yes.
And next to you, we've got Dan Kay, the man with the most pointless name in Echo Sport. It's the same number of syllables as his actual name, DK. How are you?
Wow.
To be honest, I'd retire if I were you, mate, because there's nowhere left to go. You've hit such a high bar. I'm kind of scared to say anything now because it will just pale into comparison. That is the biggest build-up I think I've ever had. And I feel 10 foot tall. So thank you very much.
Great. Now we've got the pleasantries out of the way. Let's get on to business. Or Liverpool's lack of. Transfer window. Deadline day's over. Not much has happened, but we've still got to talk through it. Ian, we'll start with you. Jurgen Klopp said in June he wasn't going to spend big this summer. He said in July he wasn't going to spend big this summer. You get the idea.
He said it in March.
Said it in March.
Is when he first said it. He gave the hint that they weren't going to be spending that much on any players because he felt as though he didn't need to improve the squad of players that he's got. And let's be honest, that's exactly what's happened. He's been true to his word. I know fans quite enjoy, and to be honest, quite rightly in a way, that they like the idea of the new faces coming in, so there's somebody new to have a look at the start of the season. But for Jurgen Klopp, I think he spoke. It was before the Community Shield, which would have been just about 10 days ago now, up in Scotland after the game against Napoli where they lost 3-0, and he basically mentioned that the big thing for him this summer has been being able to keep together a successful team, because when he was at Dortmund and they were winning this, that and the other, getting to Champions League finals, at the end of every season, one of the best players would get taken off them, usually by Munich. You think Lewandowski and Goetze, and before that Nuri Sahin went to Real Madrid. I think Hummels was slightly gone by then, hadn't he? Kagawa went to United, I think he did, yep. So he's always lost a big player, and you know the way that Jurgen Klopp, he's big on certain players being very integral to the way the team plays, and especially when Lewandowski went, I think they struggled that season. That was his last season there, and he knew exactly what the problem was, and the problem was they didn't have a striker, which he then rectified in the January. I think he brought somebody in. So for him, the big deal has been keeping hold of all the players, and it's been good from Liverpool's point of view because there's been no links, has there? From, we had last year was Real Madrid in for Mane, and then it was Salah as well. This year there hasn't really been any of that. This summer they just haven't really had to cope with that because the players, Mane signed his new contract, I think it was last November. Salah and Firmino was earlier in the year. So all of the key players have either not long been signed, such as Van Dijk 18 months ago, or they've been tied down to long-term contracts. I know there was all the talk about Coutinho, could he come back on loan? That was never going to happen. I don't think Jurgen Klopp is too keen on the loan market. I think he regards it as these are players who aren't 100% committed to the team, and he likes players who are like that. I mean, if you look at it, the only loan signing he's ever made was Steven Kolker. I think that's right in saying. And that was right at the start of his Liverpool career when he was still trying to work out the players that he got, and he did have a shortage of centre-backs. So that's the only loan move he's ever made. So whenever you saw any links of Liverpool being interested in loan moves, for whether it was Coutinho or anybody, for me it was always, this isn't really going to be happening. And I think the other thing as well you've got to bear in mind is that Liverpool spent an awful lot of money over the last couple of transfer windows, and at the end of this one they've ended up recouping a little bit. I think it's 25-30 million, not quite done the sums properly yet, and that'll change when they actually are determined what the fee's going to be by tribunal for Harvey Elliott, because otherwise they'll have only spent the 1.3 million on Sepp Berg, because Adrian, the other player who's come in, cost nothing. So they have moved on one or two players, Simon Mignolet. Fair play to him, to be honest. he's been such a professional for Liverpool over the past 12, 18 months when he could have kicked up a massive fuss, certainly when Loris Karius was in goal. But he helped Alisson Becker, and I think Alisson Becker would be the first person to admit that part of the reason why he's hit the ground running for Liverpool and ended up having such a successful debut season was because Simon Mignolet was there to help him and to guide him through. But yeah, I think was it Harry Wilson? There was some suggestion he might go. Obviously, he went off on loan. I'm just going through all the names now, to be honest. I won't go through them all now. But the point being that anybody who's surprised by what Liverpool have done this summer are clearly not been listening to everything that Jurgen Klopp has said and everything that the club have done over the past 6 months.
Dan, Liverpool European champions, just had their best ever domestic season. They've only missed out on the title by the point. When you look at the squad, they've only lost 3 players from that Champions League winning squad. Right call from Klopp to not really spend big?
I think so. Inevitably there will be some disquiet amongst some Liverpool supporters. There is this old school of thoughts. People reference Bob Paisley and the great teams of the past who would always bring players in when the club was strong. But it's apples and oranges. The whole dynamics of football and transfers and squads are very much different from what they were in the 60s, 70s and 80s. And, to reiterate what Ian said, clearly a massive priority for Liverpool, not just this summer window, but over the last 18 months, since they've really got the kind of right pegs in the right slots that they want in terms of the big acquisitions that they've made with Van Dijk and the goalkeeper and so on, was making sure that the key players are all tied down to long-term deals, and they are now. And and that in itself will be a big outlay of money because you're talking obviously big annual wages and signing on fees and everything that comes into that. So, you can make a case to say, well, if Liverpool were to have an injury crisis and lose, say, 2 of the front 3 and Van Dijk or the goalkeeper for any length of time, then you would be, there would be some cause for concern. The reality is Liverpool can only name 25 players in a squad. You look at some of the prices that have been paid, that have been touted for bang average players all summer, and it would make no sense whatsoever for Liverpool to spend, again, big money on players that A, might not get a game, and B, if they were to come in, would possibly reduce the pot available for other players should Liverpool lead them in the next 6 to 12 months. But also, if you brought them in for big money and big reputations and they're not playing, you run the risk then of do they start to cause a bit of dissent and friction behind the scenes. So no, I'm pretty comfortable with what Liverpool have done this summer. You look at the squad; it's very by and large still pretty young. Got good experience, a lot of them, but still real scope for improvement. And I detect, from all the noises coming out, even in the immediate days and the aftermath of Madrid, a lot of them were saying, "We're so pleased we've won. The relief, the weight is off our shoulders." But this is not an end in itself. This is just the start for us. I detect a real hunger in this squad, and in the same way that what happened in Kiev, hopefully, seems to kind of really set them up for what they went to do in Europe last season, obviously going all the way and lifting the trophy. I'm hopeful that falling just short in that bid to win the Premier League title last May has really kind of lit that fire within them to go one step better again this time around.
I think the age thing is very important, what we said then, Dan, because I think this is perhaps a season where Jurgen Klopp's he's going to allow his squad, his players to breathe a little bit, absolutely. Rather than every single year you're thinking, we're going to bring in X, Y and Z and we're going to change things around a little bit. And bear in mind that last season, Alisson Becker obviously came and did really well from the start. Fabinho didn't play until October.
Nope.
So he's playing a full season for the first time. Keita, he was in and out, and you could tell towards the end of the season when he came back, and he obviously got the injury against Barcelona, but he was finally becoming the player
starting to find his feet.
You thought that he was going to be for Liverpool anyway.
Yep.
And in the brief time we've seen him, certainly at Wembley, he did well when he played against Lyon in the friendly. The last couple of weeks he's done well. He looks a different player. Jurgen Klopp said at the press conference today, you can tell from his body language, everything when he's come back this summer.
He should be more settled
everything
now,
seems different. Shaqiri's the same. Shaqiri knows exactly what to expect. And then you've got those other players like Oxlade-Chamberlain who barely featured all last season. In fact, he played about 20 minutes, if that.
Against Wolves in the last game.
Exactly, he played next to nothing last season. And there'll be these concerns, as you just mentioned, that if Alisson gets injured, what if 2 of the front 3? that would be the same at any team. That if your best players get injured, then there's always going to be a struggle to replace them. And perhaps Liverpool don't have the strength and depth of Manchester City, but the reality is...
Who does?
No one does. Yeah. Nobody does. And there was an example from last season when Joe Gomez got injured. And everybody, not everybody, but quite a lot of fans at the time were like, oh my God, that's it, we are finished. We've only got Joel Matip and Dejan Lovren. And Dejan Lovren, who, didn't do much last season for various reasons. One, he got injured at the wrong times, and two, the form of the other players. But he was, Champions League finalist, World Cup finalist the previous season. And then you were left with Joel Matip, who... At the time, people were thinking, well, what, he's fallen massively out of favour. Ends up being, as I've said in these pods many times, I would argue for the last 2 months of the season, he was Liverpool's best defender consistently. Yep. He was excellent. He was excellent in the final. He was excellent in Barcelona when they lost 3-0. I thought he was very good.
Liverpool's player of the second half of the season for me.
Yeah. So it's great on Sunday too.
Yeah. And these are and of course he'd been left out and then responds by. There was one very good piece of defending very shortly after he came on where you think he was put into a right mess and he got himself out of it and obviously scores the goal. So he's somebody's got a point to prove. He might play against Norwich, he might not. We'll find out soon enough.
I think it's interesting as well. Dan's mentioned the descent there. I think that's something that's been overlooked because you look at the squad. Well, there was the grumbles, weren't there, from Mignolet and Moreno at the start of the season. But then the whole way through, they're players that have been with Klopp the whole way through since he's come in. Yep. You sign a player there, that could disrupt it. So that must have come into his thinking when he's approached this transfer window.
And you've noticed that Moreno, you mentioned Moreno there, they were all like, oh no, all the players were gutted that he'd gone. They understood why he'd gone because he wants to go and play football, and they understand why he was upset because he wasn't playing. But there's a character around the place. He's gonna be missed.
He is, and it's the unity of the group. It's very clear. It's such a massive deal for Klopp. One moment that kind of really stood out for me last season was it was a great goal, Salah's thunderbolt against Chelsea in mid-April. Now Shaqiri, who came in the summer for a smallish fee, lowish expectations, kind of had a real kind of purple patch of form, late autumn, early winter, didn't he? But then for whatever reason, hardly really figured in the second half of the season, apart from obviously starting against Barcelona, which is a little bit after that, this Chelsea game I'm referring to. So it was discussed and debated at various points in the first half of 2019. What's happened to Shaqiri? Why has he fallen out of favour? Why isn't he getting the game? Because I know he had a couple of injury problems as well, but he just didn't seem to figure, and no one could kind of figure out why. And there was a certain kind of assumption made, well, maybe there's been a bit of a falling out with Klopp, or maybe he doesn't think he tracks back enough, or whatever. Whatever the reasons are, Shaqiri obviously can't have been that thrilled to be not playing so much of football. Anyway, Salah scores this wonderful goal, and a few minutes after Mane had put us in front. And it was only when watching it back afterwards that I noticed that, goal goes in, everyone goes bananas, cameras go onto the bench, and as Klopp turns, Shaqiri just jumps right into his arms. And by this point, like I say, he'd hardly kicked a ball in anger in 3.5 months of 2019. Yet, tying into what Ian says about Moreno, you mentioned as well just before about Mignolet. Another standout memory for me is, obviously made that amazing save in the last minute against Napoli, which we were playing Europa League football on Thursday night, but for that. And I remember kind of in the pub after the game, just having a quick look at Twitter and seeing that Mignolet had already tweeted within 20 minutes, half an hour of the final whistle, not just well done Alisson, but a picture of the goal. I can't remember exactly how he phrased it, but it was something like, what an amazing save, what a moment, what a goalkeeper. And this is from someone that's basically taken his job and ultimately has really signed the death knell for his Liverpool career. I think that's why a lot of people will wish Mignolet well in his future ventures with Bruges, isn't it?
Yeah, Bruges. Yeah,
he was going to say something
Club
like that.
Brugge.
Club Bruges, as they were known in the 70s. But it just underlines and illustrates the point that this tight knit unit that Jurgen Klopp has created over the last 3.5 years at Anfield, it's not just about ability, it's about mentality, it's about togetherness, it's about the group. And he is not prepared to compromise that for anything or anyone. And even if that means if the worst case scenario happens and they all fall over injured with, you have to take that on the chin. The risk he would take by bringing in big names, big egos, big price tags, he's not prepared to do anything to compromise that. And I won't criticise him for it.
Ian, you're one of the few people who've seen every Liverpool game this summer, and one of the few people who's actually seen a bit of Elliott and Berg.
Yes.
Can Klopp be happy with his summer business?
A bit early to say, to be honest. I mean, the 16 and 17. I mean, Sepp Berg, you would imagine he's definitely one for the future. He'll be training with the first team. He's tall. He is a little bit like Sammy Hoopier, a little bit. He doesn't look like him, obviously, but he's quite composed, laid back, strong in the air. Decent. I think I went to the under-21 game against Oldham in the EFL Trophy. I know we're going to talk about that in a bit. There was one bit where he brought the ball out of defence, just carried on going, ended up on the edge of the penalty area, the Oldham penalty area, that is. In terms of it, Harvey Elliott, it's a strange one, really, because he is only 16, and I've seen him 3 times now, and every single time you're like, ooh. He's quite good. Yeah. And you don't want to go overboard because, such as the game against Oldham, in the first half, for whatever reason, Liverpool couldn't get the ball to him. And so he hardly had a touch, but there was 2 things that happened in that first half. One was there was a very, a long pass went out towards the corner flag, and it looked like it wasn't going to be kept in. But not only did he manage to keep it in, he managed to control it, stone dead, and then got past a player straight away. And this is an Oldham team that wasn't just full of youngsters, it was full of seasoned professionals. Okay, League Two, but when you're 16 and you're coming up against, and that's ultimately why they lost, which again we'll come back to in a bit. But the goal that he scored, good move from Liverpool, gets into the penalty area and he's got it. And he shows good feet, good awareness, lays it off with his back to goal to Curtis Jones, who gets it out of his feet and has a shot. Keeper saves it, parries, comes out. Harvey Elliott's the first person to react. But you're thinking he's going to have a shot here because it comes straight out to him. And the goalkeeper dives to stop him. The defender comes across and he just dropped his shoulder, goes the other way and just puts it into the bottom corner. And all that was in like a split second. And you just think, yeah, you don't want to get too carried away. But even like the simple things like he was playing passes to his teammates that were just 5-6 yard passes that were, you ask any professional footballer, the best players are the ones who pass the ball where they want it to go and where they see the next pass going. Yeah. So he's playing these passes in front of people, never behind them. They never really, his teammates never had to control them. It was always into space for them to run onto, always forward thinking. And he's keeping it simple. He wasn't trying anything too clever, but everything that he did just had that extra little bit of class. And he's 16. He's 16, and he was only 16 in April. I don't know if we've said this before on a previous podcast, what were you doing at 16? You know what I mean? It's like, exactly. So he is going to be somebody who, if he continues the way he's going, I would be not surprised if he gets some first team action this season. You know what? He could even play. It depended on what the League Cup draw is, for example. He could even get on the bench for games like that. But I mean, you asked me the question, what I would think, because I've seen him play so far. And Elliott is somebody who I'm not surprised Fulham boss Scott Parker was a bit gutted when he left, because he'll have thought he can play 15-20 games here this season and he could, not make us a lot of money, but he's somebody who's going to
have an impact.
Help them. Because they obviously back in the Championship, but he's somebody who's his value's only going to go up, and he's going to learn from. He's going to be training with the first team, and he's going to learn so much from the likes that that's the other thing about Liverpool's team now, is that they're all learning off each other. The standard is so high that training is probably more difficult than some of the games that they play. Seriously, it will be, which is why why they struggled a bit for results during the summer, because it was so intense and they were deliberately trying to tire themselves out, which it's fun, isn't it, pre-season? While it's happening, you're kind of fretting a little bit over certain X, Y and Z. Then the minute they put the second half on against Manchester City and you think, oh, it's okay, it's all done. I mean, even that's not even a proper game as such, so we'll only find out against Norwich, but Harvey Elliott is somebody who, you're going to be keeping your eye on. It's difficult not to. We've been here a million times, but certainly me at my age, you've seen these players who come through and you think, Jordan Ibe was the last one we thought, he's quite good, he's got quite a lot about him, but he never quite managed to kick on. So I'm not going to go overboard on Harvey Elliott, but you can see why Liverpool was so excited about him.
We're not expecting to see a debut tomorrow night, but we'll probably see at least one of them in the squad. Adrian, what have you made of him as a signing, Dan?
Well, obviously we had to get someone of experience in as a backup to Alisson. I didn't realise until I vaguely remembered it, but I was reminded on having seen something on Twitter that he's already knocked Everton out the FA Cup.
I was there for that game. I was there. That was the penalty shootout that was going on forever.
Was that the year before they knocked us out? Was it the same season? 15, 16, something like that?
That was 2015.
Yeah. So and then they did us with a last minute.
No, it was Villa. Villa in 2015.
No, they did it, yeah. And then the following season, Klopp's first season, it was a last-minute header and replay, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He's experienced. He'll do a job. He seems a bit nuts. I've also seen a clip on Twitter. I think it was a testimonial game or a friendly game where he basically just dribbled from his own end.
That comes back to the character, though, doesn't it? I know they wouldn't have just bought him on the strength of his character, but if he's somebody who can come in and liven things up in the dressing room, not that I'm saying they need it, but
and I think
with Moreno gone,
for that kind of role, when you know you are second choice, you're basically playing second fiddle to the number one keeper. Arguably the best goalkeeper in the world, or certainly one of them. You've got to have that kind of... I know he made all the right noises when he came and going, I'm going to challenge Ali for his first team spot, but I think he knows that, bar Alisson's form falling off a cliff, he's only going to be playing the odd cup game here and there. But the modern footballer, I think, is aware that, it is a squad game. And I've always had this feeling, if it was me, I would much rather be... Well, I suppose it depends where you are, but I think for me, I'd rather have the opportunity to be part of a setup like Liverpool's, where you're going to be competing for the top prizes. And if, God forbid, Alisson does break an arm or a leg, all of a sudden you will be thrust into these huge games that matter, rather than in the kind of the Indian summer of your career.
He's only 32, isn't he? So he's only 1 year older than Mignolet. And also, there's the train aspect that I mentioned before. He'll love going into training every day, won't he?
Yeah, and he will probably feel as well. At the end of the day, having a club like Liverpool on his CV is only going to help him if he's here 1 season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons. If he is going to get one more contract at the end of it with someone else, well, if Liverpool, one of the biggest teams in the world, the current champions of Europe, are prepared to bring you in, then you must have something going for you. So I was when we were just on our way back from Wembley on Sunday. It was like 9 o'clock Sunday night, wasn't it, when the Mignolet news broke that he was off. And I do remember thinking, we'll get a good few days of transfer speculation as to who the goalkeepers of Liverpool might be after. And then it was like 10 o'clock Monday morning. Yeah, Adrian, done. Which I think, again, has, we didn't really go into it before we were talking about transfers, but I think the other aspect that I think is important to make clear about why I'm really quite comfortable with how Liverpool have handled this summer is that you look at, the Klopp, the transfer committee, the way Liverpool conduct their business really has been held up by a lot of people within the game as how it should be done in this day and age. A lot of teams are looking at Liverpool's structure and the way we go about business as really the model for others to follow. And I think they have earned the right to be trusted by supporters. So the same principle applies really with the goalkeeper. I can't say I've got an awful lot of knowledge about him, or he seemed to be all right when he was at West Ham. But we needed a reserve goalie. We've got one. And to be honest, as soon as that clock ticks over to 5 o'clock this evening, I was like, thank God for that. Let's get on with the...
You're not allowed to say that.
I'm not allowed to say that when it's happening, but I can say it now. The transfer drivel is over. Let's get on with some real football.
You're saying there about Klopp having the fans having to trust Klopp for the incomings. It's the same for the outgoings as well. Harry Elson, that's one that probably had a few raised eyebrows in. Good move for him, though, Bournemouth.
It's a good move for him. In terms of it just continues his progress. I think, I can't remember where he was. Not last season, but the season before. Derby, he was somewhere else. Hull.
Half a season.
That's right. So he's gone from kind of mid-table championship to promotion challenge and championship to arguably mid-table Premier League. So for him, it's another step up the ladder. And he certainly got given a good run during the summer games. I think he featured in all of them. But then when he's not on the bench for the Community Shield, you're thinking, all right, okay, maybe might be where he's going. When there was no Manny and no Milner, and I understand there could be like 5, 6, 7 injuries, but is he going to stick around to want that? I mean, Jurgen Klopp mentioned after the game in Geneva last week, where he basically said, look, we'll do what's best for they've been in conversation all summer. We'll do what's best for the player and we'll do what's best for the club. And I think this is a good compromise, I think. If he goes to Bournemouth and does really, really well, then he's given himself a fantastic chance to play for Liverpool the following season, because the reality is there was a lot of Liverpool fans who thought, we should really get in Ryan Fraser. We should look at that David Brooks, who, it's his injury that's prompted Bournemouth to move for Wilson. But if Wilson does exactly what those two have done at Bournemouth, then he's already Liverpool's player, so they don't have to pay for him. And if he does really well and they decide, well, we don't really want him anymore, he's not needed, then his value will only increase. So it's a matter of it's another learning curve, another step for him and for Liverpool. I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. The only thing is, of course, is that it leaves Liverpool short of an option, but that's an option of a player who's only ever played for 25 minutes for Liverpool in his entire career, so is he really an option?
And you say that Ryan Kent's still there, he's not gone today.
Well, no, he's not. Well, at least not at the moment. There's a chance when we can walk out, he's actually gone. Well, the thing about that as well, the loan market closes on August the 31st, so he could still go anyway, so he's not gone permanently anywhere, but I think Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp said, again, that was after the game in Edinburgh, where he said, no, I don't want to send him out on loan, but you know, the fact is things change, situations change. If you just stay stubborn and then go, I only want this, that and the other, then you're never going to get anywhere in life, never mind in the transfer market.
Have to compromise.
So there has to be some kind of compromise. And I would imagine that if it becomes obvious that Ryan Kent isn't going to be featuring very heavily this season, which I don't think that he will, and another team comes in with a loan, it may be time to send him out on loan again.
And then you've also got Ovie Ejaria, a deal that actually did happen on deadline day.
Well, he's dead. He's gone. Hasn't he?
He's gone.
He hasn't played since January 2017, the FA Cup game against Wolves, was it? Was that the last time he played?
It probably, yeah, we lost at Anfield, yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't on the tour. He wasn't involved with the under-21s the other night.
Is he a little bit older than Wilson and Kent?
He's either 22 or 23. He's one or the other. You watch him turn out to be 21. I'll find out in a minute. You just keep talking, I'll find out.
Well, it's a weird one with Ejaria because he's one of these clutch of youngsters, isn't he? That he got the chance under Klopp in the first team and then just sort of disappeared off the radar. Yeah,
and he went up to Glasgow, didn't he, last season to play under Steven Gerrard at Rangers. And I mean, maybe just because of physically, obviously, he's a big, tall, rangy lad, whereas
he's 21.
He's 21. There you go. So he is actually younger than Wilson and Kent.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting because Wilson and Kent are both titchy, aren't they? Ejaria is a big rock of a lad. So
great phrase. I've not heard that for a long time.
You kind of thought, particularly without wishing to disrespect the Scottish League, it's obviously not up to the same standards as the Premier League. From what I kind of managed to glean last season, he was a little bit in and out there, had a couple of decent games, but didn't really kick on the way that I think Gerrard and presumably Klopp would have hoped for.
He's done well at Reading, though. He did well at Reading, which is why they were so keen to take him back. And of course, now they've got the loan deal and they have to sign him next summer, basically. Yeah,
and I think there's also like a sell-on clause.
Yeah, 20% for Liverpool.
Which, with that information being released, makes you think that kind of like they're probably not really expecting him to come back.
Yeah.
To Anfield.
Well, he can't. They're guaranteed. They have to sign him next summer.
Similar to the Karius deal.
And similar to the Danny Ings one, which that got concluded, obviously, this summer as well.
And that is the reality. That is part of transfer policy for clubs of the scale of Liverpool now, with the academy that they've got. Obviously they spend millions and millions of pounds on these academies, ostensibly to provide players for the first team. But it is also a case that there's an awareness that only a fraction will ever come through and make it at Liverpool. But if they can bring through quality young players and train them up to a standard where they can end up making some money, which can then be put into the overall general pot for either youngsters or transfers, that's the reality of how Liverpool and clubs of our ilk do their business nowadays. So good luck to the lads, and if we play them in the Cup, he best not score against us.
Won't be able to this year.
No, can't.
If he's on loan, then he can't do. But
next year, though.
Next year, that's one for him to put on the back burner.
Right, let's talk exits now. Phil Coutinho.
I thought we just were.
X's.
Oh, X's. Oh, sorry.
That's another step up. Phil Coutinho. Klopp's spoken a bit about him in his press conference today.
Yeah, he said no comment, is what he said.
I've got everyone all excited on Twitter.
Yeah. Is that one we can finally rule out? It's come through. He's still at Barcelona now. He's not coming back to the Premier League.
He's what I said before about Klopp and loans, no chance.
But he is never coming back to the Premier League. Liverpool, Coutinho is done. You're ruling that one
out?
I
hope so.
For the purposes of our blog headlines, no, it's going on forever. But for the purposes of actual reality, then let's face it, it's not happening anytime soon. Why would it happen anytime soon? Why would it happen in the future? Liverpool have moved on. To be honest, probably Coutinho's moved on as well, if we're being honest as well. So that's the other thing that gets lost. And this, the other thing is, he's a really good footballer. Barcelona is a really big club. I'm not saying he's not got his head together at Barcelona, but if he gets a chance to rediscover anything like the form he had during the last 3 months at Liverpool, then he's going to be an amazing player for Barcelona, and they'll still have him, and he'll make a big difference for them. So fair play to him.
And as you two keep saying, the loan window is still open. It can still go overseas. Are we expecting any more departures?
I don't know. It's the short answer to that. There could easily be some of the under-23s might end up getting a chance elsewhere. These are just me off the top of my head, just thinking of names. You look at Curtis Jones, whether or not he could get a move to a championship team. He played very well the other day against Oldham. But there could be 2 or 3 more from at that level who might benefit from more of an opportunity at a League One team, at a championship team, than just playing another season for the under-23s.
And then, Dan, I'm going to throw a few free agents at you just to spice things up.
Go on then.
Fabio Contral, Ignacio Abate, Hatton Ben Arthur, Marco Suzetta, Frank Ribery, and Kasiki Hunda. Any of them take your fancy?
No, not one of them.
Everyone
Frank Ribery maybe 10 years ago.
No, Frank Ribery, you can tell he's still a player, but he's not. Only if they get... Let's put it this way. Say that Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah have an accidental collision and they both get injured in training tomorrow and they're out for 3 months. Then you might think, Frank Ribery's a free agent. You might be interested there. Otherwise, it would have taken something remarkable for Liverpool to go down that particular route.
Ben Arthur, I suppose, would be the only one of those names that kind of... was it a few years ago when he was at Newcastle? Mm-hmm. He seemed to have a little bit of something about him. But at the same time, he did very much seem one of these... hit or miss.
Yeah, once every 3 games.
Flair players. Yeah. He'll score a worldie every so often. But if you watch him week in, week out, he'd probably have the likes of me and Ian tearing what little hair we've got left out.
And what do you two make of the rest of the Premier League's transfer business? Do you look like Sir Rodri and Domblé? It's been quite a few big signings.
Interested to see what's going on at Everton, to be honest. I think it will be quite good for them, if it goes through, that is. They were never going to sign Zaha, were they? I'm surprised that Zaha's still at Crystal Palace. I think whoever his agent is needs to have a word with them and possibly say, please leave immediately, because he could have got a move to 1 or 2, 3, 4 other clubs. Let's put it this way: if Zaha was available at a decent price, I'd have him at Liverpool. I think he's one of the best players that played against Liverpool last season. Admittedly, he was up against James Miller, the right back, who got so tired towards the end he just kicked him to get off early, I think. Yeah. But the rest of it, I think Arsenal have done some good business if they can get a centre back in. I think they're trying to push one through.
David Luiz.
David Luiz. We don't know whether that's been done.
They got the paperwork in, so it's got the extra 2 hours.
Luiz,
sure, he's done by the time we finish.
Very odd transfer for David Luiz and Chelsea, but for Arsenal, very good. Has David Luiz got some previous with Frank Lampard? I don't know.
They must have played together, so I'm not sure what's happened.
I know, exactly. I don't know.
That doesn't necessarily mean they won't have.
No, exactly.
That's true. Bit of beef there.
So I think Arsenal have improved. I think Tottenham have improved. I think Manchester United, I think they've brought in some good players, but I cannot for the life of me work out why they've let Lukaku go.
Did they get a striker
and not replaced him?
Not brought in another striker.
No. They've basically got Rashford and Martial.
Yeah. City,
Sanchez.
Yeah. Greenwood. They like Greenwood. I've seen him play. He is good, and he's definitely going to be one of the next.
It's like
big things.
Brewster, isn't he?
I think he's more of an all-round player than Brewster. To be fair, I think he'll be really good for them. And who else is there? They didn't get Eriksen, did they? Said Tottenham, Man City. Of course, Man City only brought in 2 players, and one of them was a player they'd already had. So they only
3 in the end, didn't they get the lad last night?
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about him. Yeah, the fullback.
Yeah.
Well, then they swapped him for somebody. It was a in and out kind of one.
Scott Carson.
Filling the Rob Green / was it Rob Green? It was Rob Green.
Rob Green
was at Chelsea. That's it. Yeah, the kind of Rob Green role that he had at Chelsea.
Dan, worried at all?
Taylor.
Oh, terrified. No, listen, I'm not going to. Manchester City are very well funded and have some excellent footballers and some very successful footballers, proven winners. And anyone who finishes above them in any competition is likely to be getting their hands on silverware. But we saw on Sunday at Wembley, Liverpool are more than able to take them on as equals and at times betters, and at times they're betters, as we certainly were, for I'd say the majority of that second half on Sunday. And as John Aldridge said in his Echo column earlier this week, City's whole attitude and demeanour, not just from Guardiola himself on the touchline on Sunday, but really throughout the summer and throughout last season, shows that they are very, very aware of Liverpool and our progress, and it's all set up really for another real head-to-head between the two. Just to go back in terms of the other 2 teams, we've all been asked to do our kind of like little predictions for the season, which is going to be hitting the...
No spoilers.
Manchester City or Liverpool probably feature as the potential Premier League winners for every
single person. You might
person.
say that, Ian. I couldn't possibly comment. one of the things we were asked for was kind of like who's going to be your surprise package. Now, one of them kind of comes in. We also asked for top four. My real deliberation in terms of top four was Arsenal and Chelsea, and I've just got a little bit of a feeling about Arsenal this season. I still think defensively they might be.
I've got them finishing third.
Yeah. I've got a feeling about Arsenal.
I've got them finishing fourth. But for me, it was I think 1, 2, and 3 is nailed on in terms of the three teams who it will be, not necessarily the order.
Third?
I'm thinking Tottenham third. But for me, the deliberation was Arsenal and Chelsea. I do think Lampard's going to be quite good for Chelsea, but it's how much he's stymied by their inability to kind of obviously operate in the transfer market at the moment because of the ban they've got. And I just think, I do think, Emery's a good manager. And I think they may just get the feeling they're slightly starting to come out of their post-Wenger funk. And I think they seem to have bought quite well. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them surprise at a few people this season and nick that fourth spot. The other surprise package I've got a little bit of a feeling for, and many people I think won't disagree because obviously everyone's been doing their predictions all over the web and everywhere this week, and this team has featured a lot in the three to go down. I think Newcastle are going to have a decent season. I'm backing them to finish.
I've got them going down.
Well, most people do. I think they bought some decent players. I mean, how exactly Rafa Benitez walks and then all of a sudden they're paying £60 million for strikers. I'm not entirely sure how that works.
I think we know how that works.
Well,
they didn't want Rafa spending it.
They didn't want Rafa spending it, but time will tell. I think some people would say more fool them. I'm not saying Steve Bruce is a better manager than Rafa, because I've got a lot of time for Rafa. But I do think Bruce is a half decent manager, and I just think with him, maybe slightly romanticised with him being a Geordie, and it just seems like a good fit for that club at that time. And I think they'll do all right this season. I'm not saying they're going to get top four or nothing, but I can see them finishing top half certainly.
I went with Southampton for mine.
Yeah, Hassan Hootles.
I think they're quite
decent,
solid.
Yeah,
they haven't
very
lost,
tough first away game for us a week Saturday.
Yeah, they haven't lost many of their players. Have they lost any of their players? Their main players. I don't think they
Target, do you count him as a main player?
Matt wasn't playing though, was he really? To be honest,
Trey Adams has had a good pre-season. He scored a few.
Yeah, so I think they might be some. They won't be in the top six or anything, but they'll do better than people are thinking.
They won't struggle, I don't think. No.
Right, that's it for transfers. We can officially end transfer talk until January. Let's do a bit on the EFL trophy, just to get out of the way. Ian, we don't normally advise you spending time in Greater Manchester, but you actually had quite a pleasant evening in the end.
Well, define pleasant.
You enjoyed yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, it was
KFC by the ground.
I did have a KFC behind the ground before the game. Yeah, I had it in the car park and then made my way in. No, but the last two times I've seen Liverpool play Oldham, they've got beat 3-2 because the other one was the FA Cup game in 2013.
Yeah,
13. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Brad Jones.
Yeah. So no, the weather was nice. It was reasonably warm, which for Oldham is very unusual, I have to say.
One of the highest grounds up, secondary to Birmingham, was it? First time I went there was for the FA Cup third round tie when Tranmere were playing there 25 years ago. It was Baltic.
I went when Everton. I think we mentioned this. I went there when Everton played, and it wasn't even cold then. And that was in January when Liverpool played. I must have just got wrapped up properly and knew it was coming. Anyway, going back to the game, I thought Liverpool played well. Given the fact that all but two players were teenagers, and Oldham had the likes of 33-year-old Chris Eagles playing, and I think their team, from what I got told, was kind of half the first team, half some youngsters to give
them a bit of a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Liverpool were better on the ball. They played the more accomplished side. They clearly had the more talent. They were the more technically gifted. They had the greater imagination. But what Oldham had was greater physique, greater experience, obviously, and that greater nous of how to negotiate games like this, how to win games when you're not playing particularly well. And they just had that presence at set pieces, which is what cost Liverpool. The second and third goal were set pieces. I mean, both of them were to the far post where nobody defended properly. The first one was very odd. It's like Oldham's second goal went deep, curled in. The player just seemed to appear. He came around the back of the other players and just volleyed it in. Second one was a header. Neil Critchley, the coach the under-23s coach, but he took charge in the 21s. He didn't say Liverpool deserved anything better than to get beat because he wanted to. This is like a wake-up call for the youngsters. This is what the real world's like. This is how you are assessed. This is what you're going to be up against throughout your careers. Admittedly, you won't be in a team full of other youngsters normally, but I thought Liverpool acquitted themselves well. They're going to need to win the next two games in that competition against Fleetwood and Accrington, both away, to get through the group. And if they play like that, I wouldn't be surprised if they did it. So it'll be just interesting. But then Will Harvey Elliott be eligible to play? Will he be available to play? Sepp Vandenberg. They had a very strong team up there for an under-21s team. But yeah, it was a good experience for them. But as I say, the difference in class was for me a bit alarming, or even if it was like Premier League academy side against a League Two team. But again, it was that nous, that bit of know-how that's what did for the kids.
Mm-hmm. I've actually got a fact about Boundary Park. It might be a bit outdated here. Can you tell me what's unique about it in the Football League?
It's the only one that Oldham play their home games at regularly.
It's the only one without a football gantry.
Oh. Without what, sorry?
Without a gantry. They just put the cameras at the back, or at least they did when I went in 2015.
That is what I would call the quintessential Theo Squires fact.
We have to get one in every one,
we
don't
did.
We?
Are we going to pick the team for Norwich, by the way?
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. This is enough.
Just like it's getting on a bit now. I'm hungry.
Right, yeah. Season starts tomorrow. Avoid defeat. Liverpool go top. How are we feeling?
Alphabetically, that's sound. Yeah, you can't argue with that. Yeah,
can't
they
wait.
don't lose. You can't. Yeah,
it's. I think after the final, after Madrid, I was actually quite ready for a rest, a break, because the last few months of the season was so intense, was so mentally draining and grueling. Living and dying by every kick of a Liverpool ball.
Liverpool and Man City were never playing at the same time when you play.
Listen, this is the kind of stress you want. Give me that any day over seasons when it's been all over by the shouting in February and you're looking forward to August. But yeah, I was happy to have a couple of weeks off and just to kind of decompress from that. But no, I'm ready to get back to Anfield, particularly after all the toing and froing and the hysteria of the transfer window. This week has all been about predictions, previews, seeing the new kits, the new players, that feeling that this whole roller coaster of emotions is about to get going again. And, I'm generally a little bit anti-modern football, some of the things they brought in, but...
You turned into an old, moaning old man.
Turning into... I think I've been there alongside me, and, as you have yourself, mate.
Hang on a minute, whoa!
But, I've got to be honest. I'll slightly contradict myself here because I've put the caveat on it. It shouldn't inconvenience supporters too much, and it massively inconveniences the travelling Norwich supporters. But I'm quite into Friday night games. I think it's a nice way.
Not for me, I'm afraid. Bear in mind that we are both old enough to remember Friday night games from the 80s.
Rushie's hat-trick at Villa. I remember us getting battered at Southampton. Danny Wallace got to get in a couple. Now, I think it's ridiculous that I've always had this thing for extreme kickoffs. You shouldn't have to travel really more than, say, half the country, Liverpool to Birmingham, Birmingham to London. So it's out of order for Norwich. But for me, and I think for a lot, I get the sense for a lot of people in the city and a lot of Liverpool fans, it's a great way to start the weekend. And I'm looking forward to knocking off tomorrow, getting out in the sunshine, having one or two pre-match sherbets and getting back into Anfield to welcome home the 6-time champions of Europe.
Yeah, it's a newly promoted team at home, under the lights. It's the homecoming. You couldn't ask for a better start, but you're at Jurgen Klopp's press conference. He's not taking him for granted, is he?
No, he's not. I mean, he just believes Liverpool just have to press reset and start again. He's called on the fans. He's done this in the past. He says we've got to treat this as though no matter what the opponent is, we have to have Anfield as angry as we know it can be. There's no place like Anfield when it's angry. You know what he's trying to say. He's not saying they should be screaming their heads off all the time. He's talking about the atmosphere. I think back to the Bournemouth game last season, 3:00 kickoff Saturday. That's an example of what can be achieved for that. But Dan's right in the sense that it's a night game, it's a Friday, it's the first game of the season. It's to have a great atmosphere and to be welcoming the Champions League winners for the first time. A lot of the people who are in the stadium wouldn't have been at the game and wouldn't have been at the homecoming. This is the first chance they've had to say thanks. Yeah. So that's what it'll be before the game. But when the minute the whistle gets blown and the ball gets kicked for the first time, then away we go with VAR as well. Ah, great.
And I think Norwich will fancy it. I mean, I've read a couple of pieces this week about them, and they've got a German manager, Daniel Farke, who seems can be, without being too stereotypical, a little bit of a mini Klopp there.
Well, they've got, you mentioned before about the recruitment at Liverpool. It's Norwich is the one that they've been held up in terms of the championship version of Liverpool and
Absolutely.
that. So it will be interesting to see.
And obviously there's no pressure on them. No. They're newly promoted. Everyone expects them to get beat. I think they'll come and have a go. And if Liverpool aren't right at it from the start, they might get a rude awakening. But I just think no matter what Norwich throw at us, even if they do get an early goal or whatever, Liverpool will be really, really determined and focused to get off to the right kind of start, put the onus on City, who obviously get underway Saturday lunchtime away to West Ham.
I haven't got a clue.
Not a rest yet. He's not got to get into the title race just yet.
Pretty sure they are away to West Ham on Saturday. And
I actually genuinely don't know, are they? I genuinely don't know. Is that who they're playing?
I'll double check now, but I'm fairly certain they are.
Well, whilst you're doing that, we'll get Doyley's team.
Yeah.
We'll go with the big question first. Does Mane start?
No. I wouldn't start with him. To be honest, I think we can more or less pick the team here now between ourselves in the sense it'll be Alisson, won't it? It'll be Robertson, it'll be Van Dijk, who we haven't at centre-back.
I think that's the biggest question.
I think I'm going with Matip.
All summer I would have. I mean, remember there was a debate in the 3 weeks before the final, who plays alongside Van Dijk in Madrid, and
was there?
Cast your mind back in. Obviously it was 3 weeks. You had to talk about something. Didn't you?
But, we might have been milking that one.
Yeah.
And I am, I'm a big fan of Joe Gomez. Ever since those first few games he played at left back in early on in the August 2015. I think he's a cracking young player, really versatile, great attitude. But as we said earlier in this pod, Joel Matip has been a revelation in 2019, and I think it would have been absolutely outrageous had he not played in Madrid. Gomez did kind of grew into the game, I thought, at Wembley on Sunday. Kind of, as with everyone, Liverpool kind of weren't really at it defensively for the first half hour or so, but he improved as the game went on. But to me, Matip is the man in possession. I agree with Ian. Matip should start alongside Van Dijk.
So is it Trent or Gomez at right back?
If it had been away, I'd have said Gomez. But because it's at home, I'm going to say Trent, simply because Trent hasn't been great over the last couple of games. But Liverpool are going to be so much on the front foot, you'd assume, against Norwich, that going forward he's been okay. It's just defensively he's been a little bit iffy at times with his positioning, so I wouldn't drop him though.
I can see Trent maybe getting a rest in Istanbul next week.
For midfield three, we're saying unchanged from Wembley?
I don't know, I think Keita might play.
I think Keita might play.
I think Keita instead of Wijnaldum.
I don't think you pick the same midfield against Manchester City as against Norwich at home. And it's the reality is we will have more of the ball. We will be expected to make more of the play. I think the only thing with Keita is that listening to Jurgen's press conference at lunchtime today, and he pointed out he's only really had obviously he was involved in the African nations. He picked up an injury there as well, so he's only had 2 weeks. So there's a couple of names he might throw in the mix there. Lallana, Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Wouldn't have Ox, no, not starting. I don't think he's. He's played quite a lot in pre-season, but it seemed like his pre-season seemed to go better at the start than the end. He seemed to kind of tail off a little bit.
I don't know. I thought he looked like he'd been let off the leash against City when he was in that more attacking role. Enjoyed it a bit more, Lallana.
Because he'd been playing Lallana.
Sorry, we were talking about Chamberlain then. Yeah. And the other name to throw in there, possibly for a midfield slot, would be Shaqiri, who I think he did come on Sunday, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yes.
Yeah, and looked quite lively. But yeah, it's Hender. Yeah.
How do you know he looked lively if you didn't know if he came on or not?
I just needed reminding.
Sorry.
I forgot what I was going to say now. We've got some good options. Henderson, unthinkable that Jordan Henderson would not lead the team out in the first game back at Anfield after lifting number 6 in sunny Spain for us. So then it's Fabinho or Wijnaldum. I think probably Fabinho. Well, Wijnaldum wasn't at his best on Sunday at Wembley. For me, I got a little hunch Mane might start.
Oh, we've got to disagree in here.
I think Origi's playing. I don't think they'll bother.
And
with.
the last two picked themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
They look so. I was really made up with both of them on Sunday because they looked really, really sharp.
Firmino looked
particularly Firmino.
Yeah.
There was that one where he plucked it out of the air in the first
half. Early on,
don't
swiveled
forget that
and
Firmino didn't play for the last something like 5 games, and then he clearly wasn't fit for the final. And okay, it was right that he started, but
probably helped him that as opposed to some of the you could make a case that like the summer.
Yeah, it helped him that he then played the Copa America. Yeah,
the summer tournaments we could have really done without when it comes to Mane and Salah and Keita even. But for Firmino, I think it actually served the purpose in terms of helping him get some fitness, some form, or some sharpness back. Have a little holiday, and then it seems like he's since he's come back, he's hit the ground running. And I'm a huge Firmino fan, and I think if he gets back to his best this season, all our dreams can come true, hopefully.
Score predictions.
Liverpool 3-0.
4-0.
I'll go 3-0 as well, I reckon. That's it for us. Thanks for joining us for the latest Blood Red podcast. Join us again on Monday where we'll have all the continued fallout from Norwich, where Liverpool are hopefully top of the Premier League.